All right, I got a intense conspiracy theory for y'all. Put your tin hats on. This is involving Jadon Sancho. But before we do, some people get like mad about these conspiracy theories. Like we're just having fun, so like don't get salty. Anyway, so we're about to talk about Jadon Sancho. But before we do, let's talk about a little guy named Romelu Lukaku. In 2021, he was sold to Chelsea for $115 million, and he was terrible. These are the stats, but like I'm not like if you don't agree that Romelu Lukaku sucked at Chelsea, just like turn this video off because I don't know what to say to you, right? Like he was terrible. What did Chelsea do? They loaned him back to Inter Milan the next year for $7 million, meaning that Inter Milan basically loaned Lukaku to Chelsea for 1 year for $100 million. That's basically what happened, right? If you think about it, right? At the same time, Serie A was losing a ton of money. Basically, what happened was the pandemic. Fans weren't able to go to stadiums, and that's where a lot of the money that these teams make comes from is stadiums, and so all the Serie A clubs were in trouble. So was Germany. This is an article that says that the revenues from 2020 to 2021 to drop by 1 billion euros, right? But do you know what league was not really struggling during this time? England. England wasn't really struggling. So this is 29-20. You see a little bit of a dip, but then it rebounds. One of the main reasons for this, I think, is that during this time, like the reason why England's been making so much money recently, like if you think about the past like 15 years, England's ascent has only really happened over the past like 5, 10-ish years. Right before then, it was all La Liga. Before then, it was all Serie A. Right, but basically, my belief about England is that what's really driving this is the U.S. market. America, people have been talking about it for the past decades, but basically America is now people are starting to actually watch soccer, right? And because England has the same language as America, Americans are watching English soccer, right? Or football, whichever one you prefer me saying, right? And so while everyone else was losing money, England was making TV money, right? And that's why Chelsea could afford $100 million to Inter Milan. Dortmund was losing money, and they sold Jadon Sancho to Manchester United a month before Lukaku for about 100 million euro as well. It was $100 million, 85 million euro, right? What happened? It was terrible, and they got him back 2 years later for 4 million euro. Now, one thing that I find interesting in 2023, Inter Milan went to the Champions League final. And this year, it looks like Borussia Dortmund is going to do the same thing. So what's the theory? The theory is pretty clear. I think that what happened is both teams, either independent of each other or coordinating, had the idea and shared it with each other. They were both like, look, we got these English teams. They're looking for stars. We're just going to sell these players, and we're going to tell these players to play like ass, and then we're going to get them back. And that's going to be it. Sell the player to England. They're terrible. Get him back. And the beautiful thing for Dortmund, the reason why I think Dortmund might have been the leader on this, is that Dortmund, like, that's who Dortmund is. They sell players to other teams, right? Like, Lewandowski's not even on this list, right? But we have Dembele that they sold for 135 million. They sold Jude Bellingham. They sold Pulisic, Aubameyang, Erling Haaland. That was a release clause, but you have Hummels, you have Gundogan, and again that doesn't even include Lewandowski, right? And I think that the added bonus for this for Borussia Dortmund is that because Jadon Sancho was no longer there, and because Erling Haaland was no longer there, who had their breakout year that year? Jude Bellingham. I remember I'm a Liverpool fan, so I was following them the year before, saying I hope that we can get Jude Bellingham for 60 million euro. Like people were talking about 60 million euro as if that was way too much for Jude Bellingham. Now they sold him for 100 million euro. because these other players weren't around. So Jude Bellingham got to shine. He got the spotlight, and now Real Madrid wanted him, and they were able to flip their player. This is really the perfect crime on Dortmund's part. They sell Sancho. They tell Sancho to suck, get him back for free, play in the Champions League, have him perform, and oh, by the way, we get to send Jude Bellingham as well for an extra. They probably got an extra €40 million off of this because Sancho wasn't around. Because otherwise, Sancho would have performed. Sancho would have, gotten a lot of the goals, gotten a lot of the highlights. Bellingham wouldn't have been as prominent. So really, they netted about €120 million off of this, and still, in my opinion, are getting to the Champions League final. Gotta hand it to them. Like, if this wasn't a conspiracy, if this wasn't on purpose, this was the greatest accident of all time. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe.